Hello and welcome. This video I will be reviewing Childhood's End by Arthur C. Clarke. Arthur C. Clarke is most well known for writing A Space Odyssey 2001 and co-writing the screenplay of the film adaptation of that work that was released in 1968. I'd like to give a little bit of information, background information for Arthur C. Clarke prior to going into the review, because I feel like a lot of his life experience as well as his education definitely played into some of the themes in this book. So Arthur C. Clarke was born in 1917. He passed away in 2008. He was an active writer from his beginning in 1946 until his passing. He was educated at King's College in London, and that classical education can definitely be seen in themes in this book. In 1956, so 3 years after this book was written, because this book was originally published in 1953, 3 years after this book was written, he actually moved from the UK to Sri Lanka in order to pursue his love of scuba diving. Arthur C. Clarke was not only considered one of the big three science fiction writers of his time, sharing that space with Isaac Asimov and Robert Heinlein, but he was also an inventor, an avid underwater explorer, and as well as later in life a TV show host, which I found quite comical. So now let's get into the book. I don't think, besides maybe George R. Martin, have I ever read a book where the author very quickly introduced and then got rid of characters in a book. There doesn't seem to be a main protagonist in this book at any point. There are definitely very many key players, but there is not, this is the key protagonist and this is the key antagonist, other than the overarching one of humanity versus the overlords. So let's get into that. When the book opens up, it opens up with two German scientists who had gone their separate ways after World War II, which I do appreciate Clarke acknowledging the fact that some German scientists after World War II, despite some of the experiments and atrocities they may have committed on behalf of the Nazi Empire, they were considered too valuable to persecute. Or prosecute, really, and many German scientists found very prominent positions in the scientific communities and institutions in both the Allied powers and the Soviet Union as well. So I did appreciate that nod. Both of these individuals, these two scientists, are currently in the middle of the space race, which I found quite interesting because this book was published in 1953, and the actual space race as we know it didn't technically consider to have started until 1955. So in a way, Arthur C. Clarke kind of called it. However, where they were in their space race in the opening of this book, they were almost at the point of doing space travel. It wasn't they're trying to build a satellite. No, they're actually trying to build rocket ships in order to carry cargo and people out into space to start exploration. And both scientists were within like a few weeks of finishing their ship when the Overlords appear on the scene. Definitely gave me recall to Independence Day, which of course didn't come out until 40 years later. But it did have that nice little nostalgia for me when I read that part. And they quickly established dominance, that they are the caretakers of humanity, and they lay down a few laws. Basically, there's no more war, you guys can't hurt each other. Other than food, you guys can't hurt animals, and space exploration is now not something you all can do. Which I found interesting. In addition, Overlords, what they did in order to kind of like offset those rules is they gave humanity the ability to wipe out disease as well as share some of their technology with them in order to create, basically a utopia on Earth, to bring about a golden age of humanity on Earth. So, of course, we're humans, so they were met with resistance, mostly from religious sectors. The next phase in the book is the establishment of one world government. That's something that the Overlords are wanting to make happen, and they have a liaison in the leader of the UN. So the leader of the UN is the only one that gets to go up once a month to the main Overlord spaceship and have a monthly meeting with Krewella. The thing with these meetings is that the leader of the UN doesn't actually get to see Krewella. They go up in the spaceship, they sit in a room, and they just stare at a view screen, which I found very weird because it wasn't like two-way. Like, if you don't know what the Overlords look like, what's the point of the screen? That just felt very weird to me that they would put that on there like that. But that, I digress. So one of the pushbacks from the human race was, well, how can we trust you that you have our best interests in heart, that you're just the caretakers of humanity if you don't show yourselves? So lots of stuff happens in the book, and Krewella is like, okay, fine. We will show ourselves to humanity in 50 years. So that seemed to quiet pretty much all the qualms, all the pushback of the Overlords being the benevolent caretakers of the world. And there you go. They do the big alien reveal at the end of 50 years. That does actually happen, and it was so trite. I just was like, wow, that, I'm sure maybe in 1953 this would have been like, oh, but to me it was very, you kind of saw where it was going with the foreshadowing he did in the earlier part of the book. There are a bunch of other characters introduced in this book. One is a couple, George and Jean. Overlords also have an interesting desire to study paranormal, like humanity's paranormal experience and paranormal science, which I found interesting. You're introduced to characters George and Jean at some kind of wild party after the Overlords have revealed themselves, so the Overlords are kind of sometimes mingling with humanity occasionally. One of them is at this party that's being held, and the reason why he's at this party is because the human hosting the party, Robert, has the largest paranormal or pseudoscience library in the world. And he is studying all the books in the library, and then there's some kind of like Ouija seance, which was different. But the whole point of this is to introduce George and Jean, and then also to introduce Jan, a young, well-educated black man who just happens to be at this party because his sister is the wife of Robert. It was just interesting. I just found it very amusing. Characters being picked up, having a story arc, and then being put down. And a couple of things that I did want to note that I found very interesting. You could definitely tell that Arthur C. Clarke really loved water and loved doing underwater exploration, because there's a whole section in the book dedicated to an underwater scientist where, because of the technology provided to them by the Overlords, they were able to now have a scientific station underneath the water in the deep darkness of the ocean to study different sea creatures there. So you could definitely tell he really loved water. As I mentioned before, George and Jean, they actually ended up, after having children, wanting to be a part of a anti-overlord commune. It seemed like there was a commune of Sparta and Athens where it was supposed to be humanity's artistic utopia, because George is an artist, Jean is just his wife, and it's supposed to be like a utopian art colony. And I found that quite entertaining because I saw a little bit of similarities, or I felt there were a lot of similarities, that he may have been influenced by Walden 2, written by B.F. Skinner in like 1948. There just were a couple of things in there that I was like, this feels a little bit like Walden 2, which if you haven't read Walden 2 by B.F. Skinner, I would highly recommend it. I did read it for college, and I very much enjoyed it. B.F. Skinner is a psychologist, so I feel like because of his education at King's College, he probably had to read some B.F. Skinner. In addition to maybe having to read and study B.F. Skinner's work for his education at King's College, there's also some philosophy in there here as well. Definitely a lot of religion is in here. A lot of deism themes are in this book. And as far as philosophy goes, you can definitely tell that there is some Plato influence in this book as well. Did I enjoy it? Yeah. The ending was, I wouldn't say it wasn't satisfactory. It was just kind of predictable. Like, as much as he was picking up and putting down characters, a lot of what was going on in the book, it may just be that he did so well with foreshadowing, it just kind of seemed like a natural progression of the story. But it just seemed like, yeah, I knew that was going to happen. Did I enjoy the book? Yes. Now, is it because Arthur C. Clarke is a master at foreshadowing, I was able to kind of just know where the story was going to go before it went there? Maybe. Would it be that it just, there's some recurring themes in literature that might have predicted this? Also maybe. But I did enjoy this book. I will be letting this move on to a new home. If you are interested, I will just put that listing down below. But I liked it. I would like to read more of Arthur C. Clarke. I am ashamed to say that I have never read Space Odyssey 2001. I've also never watched the movie. So that might be something on my list of things I need to do. So thank you guys very much for watching this video. I will see you guys next week on Monday for a haul, because I got some more books. But thank you guys so much for watching. Until then, bye!